Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, you read the title, you know what I'm reviewing, and as was teased in the last review video, and if it's also not obvious because, the shirt I'm wearing, yeah, I gotta say, I had a feeling that, I would probably enjoy this, and seeing as how that, this turned out to be a really good film in the Alien franchise. I mean, since the first two. After those, we all know what would come next, and sadly, they didn't really turn out that good. But I would say the last two Alien films, Prometheus and Covenant, they weren't that bad. I mean, especially since he had Ridley Scott directing those films, but yeah, they weren't really as good as, say, the first two. But thankfully, when director Fede Alvarez, if I'm saying at least his last name right or wrong, I mean, you know me sometimes, again, yeah, man, it's amazing how this one Alien film turned out. And, this Alien film taking place in between of the first two Alien films. Yeah. Luckily for the director, him being a huge fan of the Alien franchise, knowing the films from the back of his head, and it's obvious, he knew what he was doing, staying, truthful to the first two Alien films, and with its style, the science fiction technology and stuff like that, that's especially in the first two Alien films, yeah. I'd say he did a pretty good job on this, from beginning to end, and with the cast and crew, but yes, that's right. I am finally reviewing Alien Romulus. Yes, Alien Romulus. Yeah, which, by the way, this being the first Alien film under Disney. Yeah, because, a little bit of background and, because a recap on the previous Alien films, because, yeah, and as I mentioned, Prometheus and Covenant, those were the last two Alien films at the time, and not to mention, because, again, Ridley Scott directed those. And it wasn't until after the release of, say, Covenant, where, yeah, that was going to be the last Alien film we would see for a while. I mean, Ridley Scott did have plans for, I think, two more, and I know I talked about this when I reviewed Covenant, but point being is that when slowly but surely Fox would merge and become a part of the Disney family, well, changes were made to the studio on some films not going underway, and that goes for Alien. But a couple of years later, thankfully, we would get the news that we would see another piece of Alien material, and whom would direct this. And sure enough, when it was finally underway, we saw the trailers, and when seeing the movie, oh yes, yeah. It was great to see that, the first Alien film in quite a while, was a pretty good one. And again, staying, truthful to how the first two Alien films were, and like I said, yeah. And for me, because, the first things I have to say about it, well, I gotta say, I mean, I really enjoyed this. I really did. And I was definitely getting the vibes on, how this film was done, what the director brought to this. Again, staying truthful to the first two. From the visual style, the look of science fiction and such in this, and also some bits and pieces of music, and, and how the cinematography was done, not to mention the majority of the effects in this movie, well, of course, using CG, but also a lot of practical effects, and that especially goes for the xenomorphs, and another creature that we would see towards the very end of the movie, yeah. And also, let's not forget to mention the facehuggers, of course. Can't forget to mention them. The fact that the idea for this movie about young characters in space. They're in this abandoned space station and coming face to face with the xenomorphs. Well, this was inspired by a deleted scene, which did make its way into the special edition of Aliens. These young, kids and, part of the Wayland Company, if you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, the director, getting inspiration from that. And what if there was a film centering on them, Not to mention because, the video game Alien Isolation also had some, it did have some inspiration into this, and there's a bit of a reference and nod to the video game that's in this, if you know what it is. But yeah, that's nice to see how that was incorporated into this. Some details that come from the Alien video game inquired into this. Yeah, and not to mention the director, he played that video game while, he was working on, say, Don't Breathe, and yeah. And speaking of which, because the fact that the same guy who directed Don't Breathe, which turned out to be really good, oh boy, because, him being no stranger to doing something horror, and the fact that the Alien franchise, mostly the first one, in the horror territory, the genre and such, well, and mainly sci-fi horror, but yeah, you get the point. He seemed like not a bad choice to helm the next Alien film, and sure enough, oh yeah. So, and it's nice to see that it does have an 80% score on Rotten Tomatoes, but yeah, it's great to see that this movie turned out really good, and for me, again, I really enjoyed this. Gotta slow down. And it had a great, I think, the story to this was pretty good, and the fact that there are not many characters in Alien Romulus, that's nice to see, and hey, since, we had, say, the first Alien film and that, you didn't have that many characters. So, I think it's nice, for some people, you can keep up and, and how many characters are in a movie like this where there's not that many, okay? So, yeah, keep up with those number of characters in a movie like Romulus and so on. But anyways, also, speaking of horror, because Alien Romulus does pretty good with, like, what was brought to mainly the first Alien film, the horror stuff, the jump scares, and, the gruesome moments, just, it's really good. I also recall, reading this where Ridley Scott got to see a screening of this, and he gave it some positive things to say. Like, he thought it was pretty good, and that's great to see. The father of the Alien franchise approving of what Fede brought to this Alien movie. Yeah. Also, another fun fact. Apparently, Alien Romulus, I think I kind of knew about this, just a little. But when I looked it up, my mind refreshed where there was a limited VHS release of Alien Romulus. How amazing is that? Anybody who still has a VHS player, well, luckily, and if you're able to, like, managing to get the limited releases of, those Alien Romulus VHS copies, boy, that was pretty interesting. Yeah. In some ways, VHS, kind of not defunct, I guess you could say. But yeah, that was pretty interesting that, Alien Romulus got a limited VHS tape release. Yeah. And also, one more thing before I finish up, because the first things I have to say, because another fun fact, the same guy who composed the music for Blade Runner 2049 also did the music and score for this. And that's the second time, someone has done, the music and score for something that Ridley Scott had done, but yeah. But anyways, so overall, Alien Romulus, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad to see that this turned out pretty good, yeah. And again, what Fede brought to this film, and with a great cast of talents, great visuals, everything to it. And I know I'm going to say it again, but still, overall, really good. Well done. All right, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Space colonizers come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station. Right, yeah. Okay, so, with that out of the way, let's get into the film itself. Yeah. First off, with the opening of the 20th Century Studios logo, well, it was nice to see when at one point the music stops and then it gets staticky, you know, which when the music stops, it's exactly like how, you know, it was done in Alien 3. I hate to say Alien 3, but it's true. If you remember the opening to Alien 3 with the 20th Century Fox logo, you know. So that was a great way to start this off. Well, one of the first things we see is spacecraft in space, and at one point finding something out in like this asteroid field or something, like this, you know, fossilized rock, and it's brought in. And is it not obvious who these space crew are, whom they're a part of, right? Because, yeah. And, well, doom is upon them, no doubt about it, especially because when they, you know, carve some of that rock, and, well, we would happen to see the markings of the rock and what the shape is. Xenomorph. Okay, and after that, well, because we then see this girl who's enjoying this, you know, sunlight and on top of a mountain, I want to say a hill, but it was all dream. She wakes up, and one of our main characters, Rain, being played by Kaylee Spanny, I hope I'm getting her last name right. Before this, she was probably best known, and what I can think of is her portrayal of Priscilla in Priscilla. Yeah, Priscilla Presley. So yeah, that Sofia Coppola directed. So before Alien Romulus, she played Priscilla. But more than that, of course, but yeah. Well, Rain, along with her, I want to say adoptive brother, because, yeah, adoptive brother Andy, being played by David Johnson, well, they live on this mining planet, which, you know, which happens to be in the hands of the Weyland Company. Of course, it wouldn't be an Alien movie without the, you know, diabolical Weyland Company and such. And yeah, the full name of the Weyland Company, Weyland Yutani, if I'm saying that right, yeah, Corporation, yeah, and a little description of it, yeah, a largely unseen looming villain that indirectly or directly causes deadly consequences, yeah. So they work at the Weyland Incorporation on this mining planet, and they're slaves. Yeah, everybody on that mining planet is slaves. And at one point, they're like, Rain is trying to get her and Andy out of there, and they basically plan on going to this planet where it has a sun called Yavaga 3. And Yavaga 3, a description on it. It's a planet, and the destination for Rain, Carradine, yeah, that's her last name, and Andy, who are seeking to escape the dystopian, yeah, Jackson Star mining colony. There we go. And where they are expected to be met with hostility due to their android companion. Yeah, and which, by the way, yeah, since I just mentioned that, Andy, Rain's adoptive brother, I guess best way to put it, he is a synthetic life form, aka an android, yeah. But thankfully at first, you know, he's a good android. And not to mention that, you know, he's been with Rain for a long time, and, well, even after the passing of Rain's biological parents, apparently, according to Rain, her parents died 3 years ago. So overall, she's trying to get her and Andy out of that, you know, mining colony, but apparently they're not able to because of, you know, the Weyland Company changing rules, and apparently, you know, Rain has like 3 years, I want to say, until she can, you know, try to get herself off her and Andy off the mining planet and such. Jeez. The Weyland Company, I tell you, never fails in the Alien franchise being complete evil people. You know what I'm saying? The company itself, yeah. And there's one moment where Andy, at one point got, beat up by these 3 10-year-old punks. They were played by Soma Simon, Benz Okaiki, if I'm getting that right. I might be butchering it. And Victor Orizu. Yeah, they were beating up Andy, and he starts to, glitch and such, and he was bleeding, because, yeah, as we all know, the blood from the synthetic life forms, white blood, well, that's basically leaky, fluid, Well, of course, as we all know, in the behind the scenes, a mixture of milk and yogurt. Rain helping out Andy, get all patched up and such. Then at one point, she receives a call from Tyler on a watch that she has to come over to, meet with Tyler and the others because they have something in store and would be a good thing for Rain and Andy. So yeah, Tyler being played by Archie Renox, if I'm saying his name possibly right, I don't know. Again, you know me. We have him. We also have our other cast of characters all throughout the film, almost. We have Kay, who is Tyler's sister. Kay being played by Isabella Marced. Yeah, I hope I'm getting her name right. A.K.A. live-action Dora. How crazy is that? And ironic, I should say, that we have live-action Dora going up against the Xenomorphs. It's true. And there's also Bjorn. Yeah, I'm saying that right. Bjorn being played by Spike Fern. And we have Navarro being played by Aline Wu. Well, I don't think it would take us that long enough to know, who these characters are and their personalities. The Alien films have been quite good at that, I mean, especially the first 2, I should say. Mostly, but anyways. Basically, they talk with Rain and Andy about, what they found in space, and even they want to get off this, this abomination of a planet, that's run by the Wayland Company, and to be on a planet where there's a sun, and just so happens that there is a ship, and to put it this, a ship that's in space, in orbit, and also the mentioning of pods, and that's their ticket to get the hell out of orbit and such. Pardon my French, but it's true, but for them, yeah, because they don't want to keep living on this planet and end up like the adults, still being there, working for the diabolical Wayne Company, just, yeah. And Andy, they especially need Andy to access the codes and, to get access to what they're going for and such, yeah. And almost throughout the film, one of them, which being Bjorn, he's pretty much an asshole. Especially towards Andy. Yeah, so it doesn't fail either that we have one of those characters in the Alien franchise, right? I mean, at least Bjorn is not, he's not on the same territory as, What's-Him-Face as in Aliens. Thank God for that, but still, he's just an average, normal jerk, that's all. And he's also Tyler's cousin, yeah. And just, giving Andy a hard time, and Rain couldn't take any more of this, but Tyler, convinces her that they should do this, and, Bjorn was right about one thing, according to Tyler, that she needs to wake up and such. Yeah, because where they're still at, and so on. So, that's when, yeah, Rain and Andy, they're on board, and, well, they proceed on with their mission, and the ship that they're on, which being the Howler Corbelan number 4. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I hope I got the name right of their ship that they take, and them flying into space / orbit. And when at one point, yeah, because what they find is a space station, which being called Romulus. And by the way, the name Romulus, and which being the title of this movie, and that also goes for, Remus, because, the description of the ships, because, into the modules, because the Corbelan number 4, Mark number 4, and the Wayland Yutani Station Renaissance, which split into the modules Romulus and Remus. Now, those two words, Romulus and Remus, is it not obvious? Because I can't help but think of, well, the fact that another, sci-fi franchise has those two names, most notably. Star Trek, we have two home planets called Romulus and Remus, home to the Romulans and the Remans, but, obviously, this isn't the first time, I guess, where the words Romulus and Remus have been used in science fiction. I mean, it's like, look at, say, other words like Federation or starships. Star Wars has used those two words, or any other words that we've also heard in Star Trek. I'm just saying, and you get my point, but anyways. So them, them making their way to the space station, which is deserted and such, and the fact that it's, in orbit of this planet, with rings and such, and apparently they find out that it'll only be until 36 hours that it will collide with the planet's rings. But that's plenty of time for them with what they're going to do, specifically. And them attaching the ship to the space station, and, Andy, Tyler, and Bjorn, they're the first three to, step foot on the space station with what they're looking for, while the ladies, they remain on the ship. But eventually, obviously, they would get off the ship and help out. But yeah, we also learned that Kay, at one point, she becomes, nauseous and sick, being in the ship, and yeah, and her vomiting, but for a specific reason. And Rain finds out about this. Kay is pregnant. Bet you didn't see that coming. And we didn't know, because, yeah, it was not established in the advertisements nor in the trailers. But, yeah, Kay is pregnant, and Rain just like, oh, no, girl, and, who's the father? And best way Kay puts at it, just some asshole. Yeah, probably just, had unsafe sex with her or something. Just, isn't it obvious? And Kay, if I did or did not say this, let me take it back. If I did or did not mention this already, Kay being Tyler, she's Tyler's sister, and Tyler is not aware of this, and hasn't told him yet, and however he's going to react to this, might not be good, but still, her keeping it secret for a little while, yeah, and Kay's secret is safe with Rain, and that's good to see, yeah. Not to mention, also, Navarro. Apparently, I guess there's a kind of a relationship going on between Navarro and Bjorn, kind of, but just, yeah. Like, the movie doesn't go into full detail on that. But anyways, so yeah. To speed things up, yeah, Tyler, Kay, and Andy, not Kay, Bjorn, I don't want to get their names mixed up. Andy, Tyler, and Bjorn making their way through the space station, and Bjorn still being a jerk to Andy, but for a good reason why. And, yeah, from Kay and Navarro, they explained it to Rain that, unfortunately, Bjorn lost his mother because, well, his mother working for the Whalen Company, as a miner, and unfortunately, she didn't make it because there was an accident and she was sacrificed, and yeah, a synthetic life form, aka an android, was not able to save her. Only saved a good handful of miners, but she was one of them that was sacrificed and such. So yeah, it's understandable why he's being harsh to Andy at times, but still, him being a jerk, not just to Andy, but some of the others, yeah, not cool. Also, yeah, because, creepy moments that happen on the space station, not to mention, like, whenever, like, they first step on board the space station, there's, like, audio recordings of, welcome to, the Wayland Yutani Station Renaissance, like a jingle or something, just, and yeah, because, again, what they're looking for, and their ticket to get out of the planet and make their way to the planet that they're going to, same goes for Rain and Andy, well, yeah, because, and to speed things up still, because this is where things start to slowly but surely get out of hand, and where the horror happens. And even when they would first come across what they're about to encounter. Like at one point going into this room, and at one point getting themselves locked in accidentally. Andy's unable to get the door open because, yeah, not recognizing the communications and functions to that. And even when at one point, Rain and Navarro, they go in, but Kay stays behind because of her pregnancy and just, yeah, not feeling too well to do anything. So now it's up to Rain and Navarro to go in and to help them get the door open. And even when, starting with Andy, Tyler, and Bjorn, like, they came into this one room and they discovered this synthetic life form that was cut in half, and it was just sitting there like dead. And even when Rain and Navarro come across it too, and Rain discovering that maybe there's a module, a chip, best way to put it, that can be used and be placed into Andy to, you know, open the door and such, yeah. And even when at one point she was trying to, you know, get what was inside of that synthetic life form, well, the android, the synthetic, started to grab, like, and this was a jump scare, grabbing Rain, and just, yeah, and you can almost catch a glimpse on the face and whom it is. Yeah. Even before, like, when seeing the movie, and I'm pretty sure, like, right around before the film came out, we kind of knew who we were to expect make an appearance in this movie, but I won't mention him just yet. Yeah. But overall, and still to speed things up, because Rain collecting, like, a chip from this synthetic, and when they make their way to them locked in this room, and also the floor is flooded, and, well, inside the room with them are, like, tubes and such where the facehuggers reside. And thankfully, when Rain hands Tyler the chip and placing it in Andy, well, it takes a couple of minutes for him to reboot, because, yeah, processing with the chip and so on. And, well, to go ahead and bring this up now, the facehuggers, at least, like, I think one or two of them, like, they go and attack Bjorn and Tyler. Thankfully, the facehuggers, like, they don't get to their faces and, like, them trying to fight it. And also, one of Bjorn's, like, main weapons that he uses is a taser. Yeah, tasing the living crap out of the facehuggers. And even at one point, Navarro was terrified by this, and even as, like, at one point not wanting to opening the door and help Rain, because, yeah. But thankfully, and when Andy is done rebooting, he helps out, you know, taking care of the facehuggers, and eventually, yeah, when opening the door with his finger, you know, pressing a specific button, they get out, but, well, the facehuggers are on their tail, and when they enter in that same room where that damaged synthetic is, one of the facehuggers lunges at Navarro, getting attached to her and so on, and something changes in Andy now that he has that chip that came from that other synthetic. Basically, Andy has the full knowledge on the facehuggers and so on, and when the attention is turned to the damaged synthetic, well, the synthetic that they come face-to-face with, not being the exact same one, but it still has the same look and face of another synthetic we saw in the first Alien film. Yeah, but going by a different name. Rook. Rook being played by, technically, yeah, but with him in animatronic form and using, you know, face imagery and such, you know, the late legendary Ian Holm resurrected to play the synthetic being Rook. Yeah, Ian Holm is back, baby. And not to mention that they did get permission from Ian Holm's estate to use his likeness and such. They even, looking at the behind the scenes on, you know, resurrecting Ian Holm for Alien Romulus, really interesting, because they use that, you know, face technology, you know what it is, but also the fact that they built, you know, an animatronic and with the likeness of Ian Holm. They even took some molds from Ian Holm when he did the Lord of the Rings movies, which is pretty amazing. Nice move on them. So they used that, and by combining it all, and even when, like, you know, sometimes the damaged synthetic of Rook is sometimes a puppet, and when he's crawling on a table, just, yeah. And not to mention, someone else who played Rook, well, yeah, because for the facial and vocal, he did the vocal performance of Rook. Daniel Betts, yeah, he was the vocal performance of Rook. Not bad impression of Ian Holm. I mean, because always gotta find someone who would almost sound identical and do a good impression on a deceased actor and so on. Yeah, and I think what Daniel Betts brought to the vocal performance of Rook, Ian Holm, pretty good. So yeah, when Rook starts to interact with our, young crew, and even when, interactions between Andy and Rook giving them the full details on, the facehuggers and also xenomorphs, and mentioning when, the first encounter of these xenomorphs was, the crew of the spaceship Nostromo encountered them and such, a callback to that. Oh yeah, it's really awesome. And the fact that there may not be hope for Navarro because with what's happened to her. However, that's when it occurs to them that they can use cryo stuff. Yeah, basically frozen, weapons that contain cryo-freezing stuff, using cold air to, take out the facehuggers, which that's what they do. And thankfully, they managed to get the facehugger off of Navarro, but by that point, it's too late for her. Yeah. And even when Andy tells them that they can't take her back to the ship, and Bjorn, he does not like this. And he uses a taser on Andy, using it, and he sends him flying. And Bjorn, along with Navarro, helping Navarro, they get back to the ship and just flat out leaving the others behind, starting up the ship and just, leaving the others behind, besides Andy, leaving Tyler and Rain. And Tyler, Bjorn and Tyler, they're cousins. How dare you leave your cousin behind? God, not thinking straight. Right? For Bjorn. And them getting the ship started up, mainly Bjorn. But the time has come, sadly, for Navarro, where, what was implanted in her from the facehugger is going to burst. And there's one device that Navarro found in the space station, which she thought was pretty cool, an X-ray scanner. And by using it very cleverly, and seeing what's inside of her. And it's when, it's about to burst. And geez, when it bursts and blood goes everywhere and getting on Kay's face, oh man, Isabella at her finest right here, the horrific scream she lets out. Oh, yeah, nice. That was great. And this even caused the ship to lose control. The joystick was hit, and even causing to hit a part of the space station, one of its thrusters starting. But thankfully, the ship that they're on, it manages to find its way, in a docking station on the space station such, So now, Rain, Tyler, and Andy, they have to get to the other side of the space station to get to them. So Navarro is the first of these characters, of our main characters, to sadly not make it. And even, at one point, Kay, she tried to escape. For Rain, Andy, and Tyler, them making their way through the space station, even at one point, Andy has a conversation with Rook once again, and Rook giving him specific details, and now that Andy has the chip that Rook had, the mentioning obviously about the Wayland Company and the mission that now is put on Andy, now that Andy's personality has changed for now, and what Rook tells them about the others, to help them, but not in a good way, and also a moment where they're trying to figure out how they're going to avoid and, go past and escape, from the facehuggers, and Andy figures it out where, it's because, they have to keep calm and their body temperatures, because if they start to get warm, if their bodies get warm or anything, that's when the facehuggers go after them. Pretty much. So that's what they have to do, keep calm and such, and with a bit of, change the temperature of the space station, cool, obviously. And that's what they do. Meanwhile, Kay, still trying to make her way through the station, and, well, even when Bjorn catches up to her, and even when they come face-to-face with, what is on the space station, xenomorphs, their nests, and, yeah. And even when, at one point, Bjorn, with his taser device, he tried to tase one of them, just to kill them, get it over with and such. But that kind of didn't work, especially if you know the xenomorphs, you know that if they bleed out, it's total acid. Literally, they bleed out acid, just burning anything like that. Just, yeah. And it burned the tip of Bjorn's taser weapon. And unfortunately, he doesn't make it. Should have seen it coming that he would most likely not make it, because, yeah, the nest, the xenomorph, it starts to, hatch, and, well, part of it, strikes at Bjorn, right here, and the acid burning him on his skin and his fingers, and we're seeing his bones, and Kay's trying to go for the elevator, well, a door and such, and even when, thankfully, her intercom is on, and they can, Andy, Rain, and Tyler, they can hear Kay's voice, and they're encouraging her to open the door by pushing a specific button, but she has to get a key. Thankfully, the key is right on the floor, using it, and yeah, unfortunately, Bjorn, still, he doesn't make it. So, it's unfortunate for him. I mean, sadly, he had it coming to him, him being a jerk and not keeping safe, just, yeah, it's unfortunate. And yeah, we see a xenomorph hatch, and, well, thankfully, Kay got out of there on time. And back to where Rain and Tyler and Andy are, their situation, well, it seemed to work okay at first, but, yeah, should have seen it coming. It didn't last long, and that's when Andy, telling them to run. There's no other choice, just run, of course, and that's what they do. Thankfully, they managed to avoid and escape the nearby facehuggers, and when they meet up with Kay, because Kay still making her way and avoiding the xenomorph that hatched, and even when, there's a moment where the xenomorph is on top of her, but the xenomorph doesn't detect/sense her yet, And when Kay makes her way to a door, and when, yeah, the xenomorph had disappeared, well, she comes face-to-face with, her brother, Tyler, Rain, and Andy on the other side of the door, and Andy's the only one that can open it, but he won't open it, and unfortunately, for an understandable reason, okay? Yes, but still, if only they could have saved her. Yeah, and, when I was watching this movie, I was just like, oh, please, come on, don't. And this girl's pregnant, are we really gonna do this? But the movie does so. Well, the xenomorph is present once again, and Andy telling them that if they open the door, if the door is open, then the xenomorph will not only attack Kay, but them as well. And the xenomorph knows that, they're try to open the door and waiting for them to open the door. Yeah, the xenomorph being very clever and, yeah, waiting for them to open the door. But, and for Andy, he's not going to, because, as I explained, and unfortunately, Kay is impaled by the xenomorph's tail and is taken away, and, yeah. And that's when Rain feels, I would say, betrayed by her android brother, even giving him a slap to the face, just, yeah, what is with you, and just, yeah. Yeah, that was unfortunate, but again, for an understandable reason from Andy, he was technically right, and yeah, and we also knew too, and I'm pretty sure for us, the audience, we knew exactly, and the xenomorph was waiting for them to open the door. Yeah, so, but yeah, overall, Kay got taken away by the xenomorph, and, well, they proceed on, and taking an elevator, and now Andy, having a new mission and such, and even when Rain questions Andy and such, and now that Andy is in connection with Rook and what the mission is specifically, Yeah. And to speed things up some, because, at one point they come into this room where, this one room where basically, to put it this, and as explained by Rook on monitors, basically, xenomorph DNA. Yeah, because some descriptions of the DNA, that's taken from the xenomorphs, the black goo or mugenetic compound Z.1, extracted from xenomorph DNA, is used to create a xenomorph human hybrid. Well, yeah, because another way to put at it, basically, and I think, because it's obviously what we saw at the start of this movie, DNA from the xenomorphs taken and, being used by the Wayland Company to cheat death, basically. And it was tested on a deceased rat, using it, and it starts to, come back to life, rebuild itself. The body's rebuilt of the rat, and so now compound of this has to be brought back to the Wayland Company, Gianami, I think. Yeah, that's what it says too, because the black goo, slash 7.101. And also basically it's engineered to advance humanity and to create resilient workforce for Wayland. Yeah, it's obvious, and we know, of course, if you've seen and watched the Alien films, you know very well how much the Wayland Company tries to bring back supplements, anything, of the xenomorphs, and they don't care the consequences. They don't. They're too stupid, and just their fascination with the xenomorphs and the risks, the huge risks that they're taking in attempts to bring something xenomorph-related back to Earth, whatever, just golly, never fails on that, and what's brought into Alien Romulus. Alright, anyways, and to speed things up still, because, collecting the compound, and also, Andy giving, Rain and Tyler a set of weapons, and it's a very interesting, piece of, weapon material, because detaching it, and it can help, track, on whom you're going to fire at, which is really cool. If I remember to do so, I'll put the name of that specific gun in a text. I'm pretty sure, that has a name. The gun has a name to it, which is really cool. And also to talk more about the set designs, the visual effects, and the interiors of the space station and everything, because again, how amazing what was brought into Romulus, staying true to the technology and futuristic technology, I should say, in the world of the Alien franchise, and in between the first two Alien films. That's what's important, and it doesn't matter, because, it's fiction, and how sci-fi looks in the world of Alien. With the first two. So, it's amazing. And, because with the buttons and, how the monitors look, just everything to it, and the way the ships are designed and look, staying true to, how most of the ships in the first two Alien films specifically looked. Yeah, and that's what's important. So, I love that. Still, them proceeding through the space station to, of course, attempt to get out, but at one point, and even when they make their way into one part of the station where, there's definitely a hallway where, nests of xenomorphs reside, not to mention, some of the people on the space station, them being, in the nests, as we all know, Even the director got a cameo as one of them, But, at one point, they hear a weak voice, I should say, off to the distance, and, that's Kay. Kay is alive. Good thing to see. And when they make their way to rescue Kay, and when they get her out of there, yeah, I mean, she's losing a lot of blood, but Andy suggests that they should use, a sample of that DNA, from the compound, and by injecting it in her to keep her, alive and so on. But Rain is not so sure. Maybe, hopefully, because they can get out of there in time and get her in those cryo tubes. And yeah, even Andy tells them, if they get out of there on time and so on. And that's what they do. Them just running away and getting away from the xenomorphs. And to speed things up still, because, when they make their way to the elevator and trying to get the elevator to come down and so on, well, yeah, when they come face to face with one of the xenomorphs, and unfortunately, both Andy and Tyler, they lose to the xenomorph. Like, the xenomorph, whipped its tail at Andy, sending him flying, and apparently, kind of damaging him, and impaling Tyler. Tyler gets killed. I mean, we know, of course, that when it comes to the Alien films, I mean, especially that goes for the first two, there are some characters that unfortunately wouldn't make it. And yeah, Tyler being the next one. It's unfortunate. And I don't know, because I feel like there had been, I guess, a love connection between Tyler and Rain, I want to say. It seems likely, and how what's shown in the film, don't you think? I mean, even from the start, when we first saw Tyler, and some moments where, Tyler and Rain would look at each other. Yeah, but anyways. But, yeah, unfortunately, Tyler doesn't make it, even when, he tried to still take on the xenomorphs with the gun he still had in his hand, and just, sadly, he didn't make it. And, well, even Andy, Andy unfortunately doesn't get up. And at one point, Rain and Kay, they get on the elevator, but that's when it hits Rain that she has to go back down for Andy, and that's what she does. And she instructs Kay and tells her the elevator goes straight to where they're supposed to go, to the ship, and tells her to take the compound, to head back, and so on. Yeah. And thus, Rain getting off the elevator, taking that kind of ladder and such, and making her way down to rescue and recover Andy. And yeah, even a little early on when she was attempting to take that ship out, and she finally did, and Andy, he's back to his old self, whom Rain knows, whom the Andy she knows very well. And Andy feeling very sorry about this, but no, she apologizes, and because, it's not, of course, entirely Rain's fault, because, how are they really supposed to know what they were really getting themselves into? That's the thing. Andy is back to his old self, and no longer in connection with Rook and the mission, everything. And Rain and Andy, they're still trying to, now that Andy's saved, them trying to get out of there, and even when they're in that exact same room where they first found and rescued Kay, and they're trapped, and, at one point it seems like they're not going to make it. And also, this was brought up at the start of the film, and throughout the film, because Andy knowing a lot of good dad jokes, and especially from Rain's late father. And once in a while, Andy telling a dad joke, and sometimes being funny to the other characters. And, if they're about to die and not make it, it would be good, one last time, for there to be a dad joke. And, the thing with aliens and clowns, and just, And further on with this joke that Andy shared, well, this gives Rain an idea to turn off the gravity, and by doing so, well, causing, of course, not only them floating, but as well as the xenomorphs, and with the gun that she has, shooting the xenomorphs and unleashing their acid blood and floating. And we know where she's going with this, because when turning the gravity back on, causing the blood acid to, burn, the floors, and I mean, that'd be one of their tickets getting out of the station. Not to mention that, yeah, very soon the space station will collide with the planet's rings. By this point, 30 minutes and such, yeah. Not to mention, yeah, because 36 hours was no more, and because what happened when one of the thrusters was accidentally turned on, so yeah. But overall, Rain's plan goes pretty well, even when, after shooting all of the xenomorphs and one facehugger, and how much juice is left in the gun, like 10% up to then, just, yeah. And them trying to avoid the acid, and, you even firing the gun at one point to, shoot and causing her to go down, and just, very creative. Smart move, I should say. Meanwhile, Kay, because by this point, she made it safe and sound back to the ship, and for the first time, she interacts a little bit with Rook, and telling, Kay that, he's a friend of Rain and Andy. No, of course not. And encouraging, Kay at one point to push a specific button, just, and it's like, yeah, you think that she's gonna do so, but yeah. Back to Rain and Andy, because they've succeeded on what they've done, and just overall, they managed to, escape from the xenomorphs and through the space station, and, eventually they make their way back to the ship, and Kay, still alive and well, still very wounded, losing amount of blood, and yeah, because they managed to escape, and just in time before the space station collides with the planet's rings, and yep, the space station slowly being destroyed, and it's good to see that now 3 of our main characters have made it alive and well, and still having that compound. But there is a moment where, the last communication that they have with Rook on the monitors, Andy no longer complying with Rook, and no longer doing the mission on the compound, and yeah, sayonara, Rook, so yeah. And when we cut back to Rook, because, the space station being destroyed, but bit by bit by the rings, and when it comes up to the room that Rook is in, and yeah, Rook is done for, and yeah, bye Rook, so yeah. And I don't know, because I wouldn't say, not really, Rook wasn't really the main antagonist, wasn't really one of the antagonists for this movie, just, not exactly, but still, kind of, but not fully, just, yeah. Of course, we know, the antagonists being the xenomorphs, and as for the xenomorphs, of course, they're defeated too, from the xenomorphs and the facehuggers, when the space station is being destroyed by the planet's rings. And, I can't forget to mention this, because when Andy and Rain were trying to escape the space station finally, a moment where, they're in the elevator shaft, and, because them trying to get their way up there, because, the gravity's still turned off, and, even when, say, a xenomorph and facehuggers behind their tail, it gets crazy and intense, and, even at one point, the gravity turns back on. Rain was about to fall to her death, and, and Andy, he was trying to help out, but yeah, and just overall, at one point, when Rain almost, fell to her death, a xenomorph popped in and grabbed her with its tail. So, kind of nice for that one xenomorph, but of course, the xenomorph was still going to end up killing her. But thankfully, and even when they were a couple of attempts to, both Andy and Rain, they were trying to get the gun, which they didn't. Thankfully, and thanks to Andy, he did eventually grab the gun, taking down the one xenomorph that, technically rescued Rain with its tail, but also not only shooting that xenomorph, but a facehugger, and also the elevator. It made its way down and crushing all the other xenomorphs. Oh, that was pretty awesome. Yeah. And nice redemption, I guess you could say, for Andy, because, he was back to his old self again. The Andy that we knew from the beginning, and especially that goes for Rain. So, yeah. But overall, yeah, they managed to escape, and then, like I said, Kay, she's alive and well, and yeah, when the space station collides, as I said, yada yada, so yeah, let's continue on, because yeah, we're near the end of the movie, and, well, by that point, it seems like everything's good, right? And of course, that also goes for Andy, and they will make their destination, finally, to Yavaga 3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did say 3 in this movie, Yavaga 3, but mostly just the word Viaga, but yeah. Overall, at one point it was brought up early on in the film that maybe there was a chance, and more than likely Andy would not be able to go to where Rain was going, because, you know, destination and the fact that he's a Synthidian and connected with Wayland, but, you know, by this point, you know, it doesn't matter, and Rain is going to do whatever it takes to not only get her, but Andy, to their destination, to this other planet, which has sun, yeah, and Andy, throughout the film, like, complying, you know, and do whatever Rain does, but, you know, Rain telling Andy, you know, both of us, you know, what both of us will do, you know, how they put at it. And, well, Andy is put on charge, I guess you could say, you know, LinkedIn and such, resting, while Kay, still pregnant, well, her being put in one of those cryo tubes, and yeah, it seems like right there, things are good, right? Not quite. Oh boy. Well, because there was a moment where we did see Kay took that serum, you know, like the DNA and such, like injecting it in her neck, you know, she did that. Well, because of that, there's a moment where, and when Rain sees what's happening to Kay, that the baby is about to be born, and, yeah. Not what, yeah, because I think we can immediately tell this would have to do something with that stuff she took, and yeah. And the baby, you know, coming out of her, and, well, Rain, you know, cutting the umbilical cord, and this is not any normal baby, because, yeah, this is a cocoon, this is xenomorph shit, just, pardon my French, but it's true. It gets crazy right here, and just, yeah, it's not over. The craziness and the climax is not done yet. We get yet another climax, and, well, because, you know, stuff happening on their ship, and even when Andy wakes up to this, and, well, it doesn't take too long for, I guess, yeah, Kay's child being born, because, yeah, we see, the Offspring, as it's credited, and I technically already had mentioned the name Offspring early on, but yeah. The Offspring, half human, half xenomorph, yeah. And has the personality and rage of a xenomorph. We see it when it's fully grown, and when Kay comes face to face with it, yeah. If only it was born a normal child, and imagine, you know, what motherhood would have been like for Kay. It's sad. And the Offspring, the body performance of the Offspring was played by Robert Zakai, if I'm getting his last name right. I knew a little bit about this alien xenomorph creature. I didn't know that much about it. I did see a little bit of photos, behind the scenes footage of Robert as the Offspring. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect at first with what I saw, but now I do. Now I get it fully. Jeez. Also, to name some of the other cast members, well, yeah, just a couple more. One of the xenomorphs, the only body performance for the xenomorphs being credited, Trevor Newland. Yeah, he was one of the body performances of the xenomorph. We also have the voice of Mother, basically, voiced by Anna Marie Griggs, however her last name's pronounced. Yeah, of course it wouldn't be Alien without, say, Mother, but yeah, the computer of the space station on, yeah, so anyways, because, of course, with the Wayland Company and with their ships, yeah, always having Mother, so, yeah, anyways, now we come face to face with the Offspring, and, man, poor Kay cannot catch a break, and she ultimately doesn't. Because, yeah, I mean, shouldn't the offspring know that, it's its mother, so, like, she's his mother and so on? Well, no, and even when Rain, she was going to, of course, save the day once again, she was too late, and even when, she tried to get that cryo weapon and such, and even when Andy, he did at one point tried to help out Kay, but the offspring damaged/wounded Kay, and Andy can't catch a break either, and Andy pointing out to Rain on the offspring, and unfortunately, the offspring, it devours Kay. So, sadly, that's the end for poor Kay. And yeah, now the offspring turns its attention to Rain. Rain is unable to pull the trigger, but thankfully, yeah, the cryo weapon, it does release the frozen stuff, and yeah, the alarm going off on the ship, and Rain getting cold, and she's trying to make her way and, put herself in a spacesuit. Thankfully, she managed to get the spacesuit on time, and yeah, trying to take care and end this madness once and for all, going down beneath the ship, and, well, attempting to opening her airlock, and just overall, and to speed things up on that, because, yeah, the offspring, taking on Rain taking on the offspring, and thankfully, because when, opening an escape hatch, parts of the ship being detached, and, the offspring trying to hold on and trying to take on and, kill Rain, but eventually, the offspring lost, and Rain delivering a really, good line, of course, die, mother effer, just, yeah. And, yeah, the offspring is defeated once and for all, and part of that ship, being detached and, crashing into the planet's rings. And, way in the back, we can see the space station still on fire and being destroyed slowly. That was pretty interesting. But just overall, the offspring is defeated once and for all. And now, finally, everything is at peace. And, well, Andy being put in a cryotube, and we don't see what happens to Kay, her body. Maybe if she's alive, by any chance, maybe she was put in one of those cryotubes. It doesn't establish that at the very end of the movie. I guess we're left to presume. I would like to think that maybe possibly there could be a chance that Kay could still survive, and especially being put in those cryotubes, being treated very well, that's my guess, but yeah. Unless if it was established by the director, I don't know. And if you guys know, feel free to let me know. But anyways. And, Rain having the last dialogue of this movie, doing a log entry, and, well, going to make their destination to the planet that they had, from the beginning, always intended to go to, where there is sun. Yuvaga 3. Yep. So, thus, making their destination, and until they arrive, yep, they awake, and yeah. What a great way to end it off. And not to mention, the start of this movie and the end of this movie, where we would see, the first things that we would see is space, and these ships, they would come in, and yeah, the darkness, and we would see as the light hits, you know what I mean? If you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. And after that, well, the title of the film shows, and an alarm goes off, and yeah, the credits roll. Wow, just what a great and fitting way to end off this Alien film, right? Just, yeah. Alien Romulus. Again, I really enjoyed this, and it did not disappoint with what the director, Fede, what he brought to this Alien film, keeping very true and loyal to the first two Alien films. The style and how it's supposed to be, and because, the time setting of this Alien film, in between the first and second installments, yeah, just what more do I have to say? Everything about Alien Romulus, really good. From the story, the cast of characters, everybody, they were great. From Kaylee Spenny, David Johnson, Archie Renox, Isabelle Marced, Spike Firm, Aline Wu, and also there was a Wayland officer where, Rain was trying to get her and Andy checked out and, they can disembark. That Wayland officer was played by Rosie Aday. I think I'm saying her last name right. Yeah, she did good too, even though didn't have a huge part. Those that did the body performances for the Xenomorphs and the Offspring, resurrecting Ian Holm to play a different synthetic life form / android, which being Rook, the vocal performance for Rook, yeah, and with great visuals, practical and CG effects, the interiors, the set and design for Alien Romulus, the look of the ships, the interiors of them, the space station, the climaxes, the frightening moments here and there, the gruesome stuff, the action, and the music and score, just everything about Alien Romulus, again, did not disappoint. It was really good, I think, and I'm sure the same goes for a lot of you. Yeah, and again, it's great to see that Alien Romulus turned out to be a really good Alien film for a long time. And again, because after, most notably, the first two. Okay. And I'm giving Alien Romulus, well, yeah, this sounds about right. Yeah. I give it 8 out of 10 stars. Yes. 8 out of 10 stars for Alien Romulus. And what about you guys? What did you think of Alien Romulus itself? Any of you from the beginning excited for this, and whom was going to direct this, and when knowing that it was going to stay truthful and loyal to the Alien franchise, the first 2 Alien films? And did any of you get to see this in theaters? What was your first reaction to this? Do you think it turned out really good? Who were some of your favorite characters? Your favorite moments? Did you get any jump scares? Also, the funny moments and the emotional moments, they were good too. Which were some of your favorites? And wasn't it awesome to see them resurrect Ian Holm? Not as the exact same synthetic / android, but a different one. Just, yeah. And just, with the great visuals and practical effects, the climaxes, just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of Alien Romulus itself, and with what I've had to say, my review on it, and yeah. What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Alien Romulus. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward. And I'll see you guys in the next video / reaction. And stay tuned later tonight because, well, the next film I'm going to be reviewing, well, is something else science fiction related. And it comes straight from Universal Pictures, but more specifically, DreamWorks Animation. And to best describe it, well, let's just say Chris Sanders takes the director's chair on this DreamWorks animated film all about a robot who finds itself on, a forest location. Yeah, is it not obvious what I'm talking about? Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and until the next Alien film, and as well as the Alien series, peace out. No one can hear you scream.